Welcome to GARcast, home of all manly media.
Hello, and welcome to a more and more infrequent episode of GARcast. This time, I love my dear friends, but I have tricked them into watching this terrible film franchise that I love so much. I've probably mentioned it too many times over episodes, must be over the last 2 years now, or 1.5 years. And finally putting my money where my mouth is, and we're actually going to discuss these films. Because we do have good perspectives on them. You know, there is a lot to say on some of them. Yeah, I mean, maybe just do a quick round of what Bond films you've seen in general. I can start with me. I've seen them all.
Tommy's on.
Yeah, that was kind of my 2022 project. Was I started watching them sort of alongside a podcast, and then got a little bit obsessed and sort of dove in off the deep end, and I could sort of go back through my childhood and like rewatching them and reevaluating them was a lot of fun.
Yeah, for me, James Bond had always been around because it just ran half regularly on German TV on the weekends. So it was the usual, which apparently other Germans also have. It's like you want to go to bed or like zapping through the channel late at night. It's like, oh god, it's James Bond. Let's watch that. So some of the older ones, like especially the Sean Connery, LAZENBY, and the others, I just have as like a Katamari of James Bonds in my head because I just watched all of them at some point, but forgotten all the titles. But I know that they are there. Then I have many a teenage memory with Die Another Day, which apparently is one of the worst ones, is the last Pierce Brosnan one, because my neighbor upstairs, who was the same age as me, another teenage classmate, we always watched films together, and this was the only James Bond that she had. So I have seen that, I think, 4 or 5 times through my teenage years. So that was very fun to revisit just a few weeks ago, after not seeing it for like 15 years. And then sort of the last one is the Daniel Craig Bonds, which I actively saw in the cinema. And yeah, I have good memories about those. Unfortunately, Quantum of Solace, I think I didn't watch that. I forgot about it.
You're not alone. I think that's like the most forgotten Bond one.
As does everyone, unfortunately. Yeah, I like it a lot, but it often just sort of gets left out.
The other, Spectre I saw in the cinema, Casino Royale, Skyfall, but my favorite, and then No Time to Die. I hadn't because I wanted to rewatch all the others to be up to par, and then forgot about it. So I just watched that last night. So I have a very fresh memory on all of those. So yeah, these are my 3 eras of Bonds through the teenage and childhood years.
I'm just curious because like this is always the fun element factors. What were the voice actors like? The dub voices?
Oh,
for
very
James
good.
Bond, like?
I should have prepared for this. The Daniel.
Oh, sorry.
Daniel Craig one, very famous, also appeared in another great comedy podcast by like late night guys like Kalk and Velk, who are very fun guys, and he the Daniel Craig voice is iconic and has a lot of fun. Pierce Brosnan, I think, as well. So for me, in my head, James Bond has always had a very good and solid dubcast, and also like standardized voices over the years. So there's like one Sean Connery voice, one Daniel Craig voice, and then these become iconic in itself as well. So yeah, the James Bond, always good quality.
I was gonna say that's quite good because even though the Bonds are all nominally English, they all sort of have a different accent because But I guess a fun fact is pretty much all the Bonds are from places
Yeah.
other than England, or they have a distinct English accent. You've got,
I think
Scotland, Ireland,
before this
Australia,
podcast,
Wales.
you said that John Lazenby is Australian. Josh.
Yeah, George Lazenby is Australian. Piers Brosnan's obviously Irish. Timothy Dalton is Welsh, and Sean Connery is Scottish. And Roger Moore has such a lovely little received pronunciation accent going on, which is quite different from, like, obviously the modern English of
Oh god, my
Craig.
whole life has been a lie. all of them have like also dubbed in like standard high German. It's like, yep, there we go. That's just this.
You just have to conceptualize a German Bond.
Yeah, they don't sound like it most of the time. Dalton sort of starts getting more Welsh as his two films go along, which is quite fun. And obviously the Sean Connery accent is like quite iconic in general in terms of just how he speaks. Brosnan can do an English accent though.
Ooh, nice.
Connery doesn't even sound Scottish, he just sounds like Connery.
Just his own
Incredibly
accent.
localized accent, yeah.
He kind of sounds a little bit like he's always chewing something.
The other person that probably has a little bit like more of a history with James Bond is Ali.
Yeah, mine's strange because growing up, and I actually house sat for them last year with a family friend, and one of them is like insane James Bond fan, like house full of it everywhere. So every time we were over, which was more frequent when we used to live near them, there'd be Bond on. So I've seen bits of probably all of them, like, as a very small child up to, like, a young teenager. The ones I have the more vivid memories of are, like, the Roger Moore ones. Because those were, like, the ones he was especially a big fan of, so, like, Live and Let Die and Diamonds Are Forever. And then, like, because this was mostly probably pre-Daniel Craig, I have distinct memories of Die Another Day being on multiple times.
Yay!
Or if not Die Another Day multiple times, like the Brosnans on multiple times. And then in more recent years, I've seen I saw Casino Royale and Skyfall when they came out, but like I've seen the Daniel Craig ones as they come out. So like I don't think I've had much experience with the early ones. So I should definitely revisit or like get to those one day to remind myself if I have seen them. But the Roger Moore ones I've definitely seen, and have quite vivid memories of. Especially Live and Let Die. I think that's probably the one I have the most. There isn't like a Daniel Craig one or Die Another Day. That's the one I probably have the most like prominent memories of.
That's a fun one to remember. That's, I think, the first Roger Moore one.
Yeah, I think so.
And maybe maybe the most
Oh,
racist.
extremely.
How could it be more racist than the one I watched last night?
Yeah, which is a hard bar to clear, probably in Boris's perspective, who I guess you can run over your history with Bond, which is largely influenced by me being on your couch next to you.
Yeah, my history with Bond is pretty minimal. I got drawn in by the trickster god over here when he was at my place. Started watching them chronologically, I guess. So I saw the first, 4 of them, like over a year ago. Honestly, getting a bit confused, like thinking back to them, and I don't know what happened in which movie. I just know Sean Connery was there, serving looks, obviously, serving cunt, as he does.
Yeah.
Watched You Only Live Twice yesterday, and then finished on Her Majesty's Secret Service like an hour ago. As far as back in the day goes, pretty minimal. I have a sort of cursory awareness of like the what are they called? Pierce Brosnan Bonds being on TV a lot. but I wasn't particularly drawn to it. I think I probably have more experience rewatching the Austin Powers movies than,
Oh, same,
James
absolutely. Like the Austin Powers movies, I also loved. I also saw them backwards. I started with 3, then 2, then 1, because I just knew that these were popular and just grabbed the first one I could find at my local Mediamarkt electronic shop, and yeah, just accidentally ended up with 3, then watched 2, and then 1. And 2 was very hard to find because for some reason it was out of print at that time, and I just found it in like one of those like big square boxes where it's like €1 per DVD, and just had to dig through that. So yeah, I still have those like in my collection, like the ones that I got from way back in the day.
Yeah, I think I still have a set of Austin Powers DVDs from when I was, I don't know, a teenager. It probably was before. I mean, like, I think the James Bond films had sort of come back, but it was like they hadn't really made it back into like popular consciousness in general with like kids and stuff yet. Casino Royale, I think, is like an all-time dad film. You know, dads loved it, but I think like it didn't really pop off again until Skyfall. So yeah, Austin Powers was just kind of like how Bond was seen by at least me, because I didn't watch a huge amount of it growing up. I watched bits and pieces. Like I remember bits and pieces of films. It's same as Alan, like the James Bond films would just like run on a marathon late in the evenings, like once a year or whatever. So you wouldn't see all of them, but you'd see like a bit of, I don't know, Thunderball or Moonraker or whatever was on that day. But yeah, Austin Powers was kind of my first introduction to Bond. And I'm curious to go back. I sort of wonder if some of them have aged well, or if I think how I think of the jokes now that I sort of know the source material a lot better.
Yeah, it struck me a bit as I was watching, like, You Only Live Twice, that the line between a James Bond and an Austin Powers movie isn't, like, it's barely present.
Yeah, it's sort of later on, once you get to Brosnan and Austin Powers is coming out, is when you sort of feel that insecurity about Austin Powers existing, because Bond films always were a bit silly. Like, I watched View to a Kill, which is the last Moore film, like, as I sort of run up to this, because it's one of my personal favorites. And it's just, it's such a film of its time, and it's got so many dumb, silly bits and pieces occurring into it that it's just like, if you were making a parody of a Bond film, you would probably just rip a number of things from this whole cloth.
I revisited Austin Powers, I think, 1 year ago, where I watched all 3 of them. And I felt like they had aged in an okay, good way. Of course, some of the jokes are like obviously like crass and overdone, like having a fat Scotsman and insert diarrhea joke here. But some of them like really catch me off guard. Like one of them is which I've seen in another I think joke letterbox review, is that Austin Powers understands consent better than James Bond does. Because there's like several scenes where it's like one of the, I think with the first spy who's like with him, like is obviously drunk and wants to get to him, and he's like just very, very gentlemanly about it and says like, no, you're drunk and this is not all right, and then just lets her be, like lets her sleep. So it's like, yeah, James Bond would not have that, especially the older ones.
In defense of James Bond, it is a change probably about at View to a Kill, where James Bond stops getting so like I said, there's a cultural shift. It's very much a film of its time, away from, you know, forcing yourself on women is not particularly cool anymore. It doesn't make you look suave or manly. It makes you look like a piece of shit.
You just need to get like 15 movies in.
And I just need to point out my favorite joke of the Austin Powers one, because he was asleep, I think, for 20 years, like frozen. He like gets like from the 60s to the 80s or 90s. like he receives some tapes which just bring him up to par on what happened during that time. So you see like this montage of him watching the moon landing, watching the Cold War and everything, and like he is very transfixed by this TV. And then the next day, the spy lady comes to him and says like, "Oh, was there anything surprising for you?" Like, no. Just that Liberace was gay. That really caught me off guard. Didn't expect that. It's totally unexpected.
I sort of wonder where do we want to start off? I mean, maybe one that most of us have seen. If we want to start with something like a GoldenEye.
Yeah, GoldenEye I actually watched in preparation. I'm very happy for that.
Yeah, it's a good place to start because it is the horniest Bond film get.
Yeah. That's the first Brosnan, right? That was the first of them he did. Yeah.
Yeah, it's the first Brosnan film. It's
the one with the video game.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the one with the video game everyone knows. It's the first one to sort of try and break away from from the Bond franchise a bit more. It's sort of a step to modernize after the Dalton films, which are like very 80s films. So this is like very 90s film now, I guess.
Ah, yeah. Yeah, it was the one with the satellite, and
it's probably pretty well known, and it is, again, if like things are referencing James Bond in a modern sense, a lot of the time, like the way you've got your 006 or fast cars and Brosnan and your horny Bond ladies, like that. This is sort of where it all comes from. It's the fall of the Soviet Union. You can't use communists anymore. It's psyched you can. Everyone's a secret communist still, which is a fun change, I guess, you see in the Bond franchise if you watch along as well, because in the earlier films, while the Russians are like an enemy, they're often also, they probably just as equally as often like the Soviet government is an ally, and it doesn't sort of start to pivot away until later years of the sort of Cold and Culture War to be like the Russians and Soviets are just always just a shorthand for the bad guys, and this film kind of struggles to fight bad guys.
As the local German in this round, I know the feeling. Whenever German appears in one of these movies or just any movies, like, will it be the bad guy? Oh no, it is.
Yeah, it's great. Yeah, again, in A View to a Kill, it's like, could he be the bad guy? No, he's in great standing. He's an ardent anti-communist with friends in the German government. That means he's evil. He's evil. I guess that there's like another shorthand that sort of came about from the Bond films, but also like post World War II, like Germans could just be the bad guy. Yeah, and you've got like silly characters in early films like Red Grant, who's like the evil East German mirror to James Bond.
Yeah, and as I've just seen GoldenEye recently, like had no nostalgic attachment to it. I feel like it feels at the same time like fresh and a little bit old, but I think that is just like me looking back. Because Pierce Brosnan is like a new Bond, great. That man just looks the part. I mean, I don't know if he was just plonked on this world as like you new James Bond. Yes, face perfect. He just looks like it. But there was a lot of fun action scenes. I remember the tank driving along the big road. And other things, but I had also done the mistake of like recently watching The Raid just a few days ago, so that's just a little bit of a jump. But yeah, I'll leave you with the GoldenEye stage.
Yeah, it Pierce Brosnan is kind of a model James Bond. Like if I've been talking to my mum a while ago, and she's like, and she's like, yeah, Brosnan is like this, like to her forever. Brosnan is this, handsome, suave, dashing spy. He is like the picture perfect James Bond. and he carries himself really well, even if it's a little bit clunky through this film. Like, he's so trying to be like holding himself in like this really strong stance that he like opens doors really weirdly, which is something you can't unsee if you ever start looking for it. But yeah, like, and this is kind of and it does feel like a real revitalization of the franchise. Like, here are big or upcoming to be big British stars like in it as well. You've got Pierce Brosnan, you know, you've got Judi Dench, you've got like Sean Bean and all that kind of stuff. So it feels like a real like blockbuster film. Like, this is the, I mean, I've mentioned this sort of in the Discord several times. This is sort of the time of like, this is cool Britannia. You know, we are sort of selling ourselves just to the world and the stage. And I think it works, at least on the first film. It is. Hey, it's 2 hits there, Ali. Don't be mean to Martin Campbell.
Yeah, Ali had just posted that Martin Campbell, the director of GoldenEye, is also the director of Casino Royale. I have no clue how that happened, because I will later talk about it.
And
a Green Lantern movie.
And a secret third thing.
And the Green Lantern movie. Which
he also did the 90s Zorro movies, so I can't like knock him. Like, he's got more heads.
Oh my
he's got
god!
More heads.
Yeah,
just very funny seeing those two on the other side of.
Now I know what GoldenEye was so horny.
There's regarding Cool Britannia and like this whole revival, I want to say, of like British pop culture figures into a modern day. That I want to talk about when we get to Casino Royale, especially with the backlash that I got from jumping from Die Another Day to Casino Royale, which is just 4 years apart. That was just, oh boy, I need a seatbelt for my sofa. That was Whiplash.
Yeah, there's a huge cultural change in a short period, and you see it between those films. But you know, we're in GoldenEye, we're bright-eyed, bushy-tailed. You know, you've got your, like I said before, your hot blonde lady, subtle name in Xenia on the top, continuing the horny tradition, and it in sort of like attempts to try and modernize the franchise. They've got Judi Dench playing, taking over as M, like, you know, the coordinator position, and she sort of does her best to be like, oh, Bond, you know, you're a relic of previous war, because that's kind of how Bond was written at the time. He's a relic of the Cold War, relic of whatever the last sort of big war was, and he's, he's misogynistic. He's not great to be around. You know, he's got this terrible attitude, but like, you know, and he just sort of needs to buck himself up. And that sort of falls a little bit flat because they still want to make a James Bond film. So anytime he does something terrible, Judi Dench just goes like, "Oh,
well. Silly lad."
Yeah, I think she's a stronger character later in the franchise, but for now it feels a little bit half baked, like trying to counter a kind of argument before it exists, and just sort of not really doing a good job of it.
I just checked. Q is not John Cleese yet. He'll be dead later.
No, I have thoughts about John Cleese. John Cleese thankfully does not stick around as Q for long. But yeah, Q is still at this point Desmond can't speak Welsh, Little Alan, who is so old, so very old. I forget which his first film is, but he was with the Bond franchise for so
30 years,
long.
Right? From very early.
It must have been like that long.
Wikipedia
at least,
tells me he has been the Q in 17 Bonds from 1963 to 1999. Yeah, that's like.
Was there a Q between then and Skyfall? I'm trying to remember who was Q if anyone, between them.
Well, John Cleese.
Because Skyfall makes a point of like, oh yeah, it's Ben Whishaw or whatever.
Ben Whishaw.
Yeah.
Yeah, John Cleese was the one in between.
Oh right, yeah, of course, John Cleese, yeah.
Yeah, John Cleese is like assistant, like goofy assistant, and then Q, and then we get Twink Q instead.
Twink.
Oh, look, not to get on another sidetrack, but like, what else do you think they were going with here?
I mean, I don't know how big of a spoiler that is, but since the last one, No Time to Die, the Twink Q has been confirmed gay, and that was gay Twink Q. He has two Sphinx cats. He's like cat dad as well, so we'll take that. They're cute.
It took them 3 movies to figure that out.
Yeah.
If I was Bond, I would have clocked that immediately. Just what have you put? Is this like it's
GoldenEye speedrun classics of decade-old speedrun stuff.
I am sorry, it's loading. No, it will. Okay, it's blocked for me somehow. Oh well, I will never know. It's too not safe for work.
Twink Q, please.
Twink Q.
You were about to tell us how you're gonna seduce Twink Q.
Yeah, we'll take him out for a
nice dinner.
Nice dinner. Maybe we can walk along the Thames there, go to the theatre or something. No. I got more important things to do. Talk about James Bond. I'm so lost and I have no notes.
We were just in GoldenEye and Q. Opinions on John Cleese Q. And yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think John Cleese Q is an annoying character, but John Cleese is also a transphobe and fuck him. So there we go.
God, that happens.
I mean, to be fair, James Bond would probably be a transphobe.
I mean, I think Daniel Craig come out of it all right, and Pierce Brosnan, I definitely don't think is. So,
I mean, Daniel Craig has like recently, I think in some interview, I think I'd seen on Wikipedia that he said he's like happy to leave the Bond role behind him, so that he can now do things that he wants, and now he's just played exclusively gay characters. Like, that man is just living it up. He has been in Queer. He's now in the next Knives Out.
What did he mean by this?
I have dropped the hyper masculinity. Now I can be as fruity as I want. Yes.
It's beautiful.
I have actually an anecdote about that. But then we already moved towards Daniel Craig Bond. I don't know if we want to already go that fast.
I don't mind.
I mean, maybe let's wrap up Brosnan quickly, because we can probably skim over a little bit of GoldenEye then, and we can really dig our teeth into slop. If people want to talk about Die Another
here we go.
Day. because even between this and GoldenEye, there's a huge shift, and it's only about 4 films. And I think the difference between GoldenEye and Die Another Day is GoldenEye it's the end of history. The Soviet Union's down. Cool Britannia. And Die Another Day is 9/11 has happened.
We also have to reverse Yellowface, one of our characters.
Yeah, 9/11's happened and everyone's brain is broken. We don't know how to make media anymore. We gotta wait another 3 or 4 years to figure out how to make a good film again. So we just have the most insane plot of all time.
The thing is, I cannot remember why characters do things in that movie.
I watched it semi-recently, so I might be able to help you. I guess just to start off, James Bond is infiltrating North Korea and gets captured.
As one does.
As one does. In an escape attempt, he gets on a hovercraft chase in North Korea, escaping with diamonds, and causes an explosion which gets this general to get diamonds embedded in his face, Sick Nasty style, so he looks sick as hell. And he's mad at James Bond about that. But then James Bond gets put in prison for several years. And, M comes to him and goes, James, 9/11 has happened.
What?
I don't remember that.
She doesn't say specifically. But yeah, so off starts a plot of what is a film that is trying to be a callback to every James Bond film, kind of I can't remember which kind of anniversary it was, but it's it's an anniversary, it's a milestone film, so it's trying to reference everything all at the same time. So you kind of forget who's doing what and why. Even I'm starting to lose track of it in my head. It's here's the diamond moguls, remember diamonds are forever. We're in Cuba like we are in 4 films ago or whatever, where we've got this cool ice palace. Here's a guy who's got doing reverse yellow face.
For those who haven't seen the movie, there is a Korean character that undergoes DNA replacement surgery and turns into a white guy so that he can undermine capitalist West.
This franchise has the full spectrum of race surgery.
Yeah, I mean, to dash to Boris briefly, the opposite happens where James Bond becomes a Japanese.
Oh no.
James Bond becomes Japanese, and it's not even a little bit convincing. Is just Sean Connery with a shittier haircut.
They've put some plasticine on his face, around his brow and stuff like that, so he looks a little bit weird.
And then he just, and it serves no purpose at all, and he just stops randomly being Japanese later in the movie. So,
yeah, it's You Only Live Twice is a very strange film, because there's also another point where there's a British handler of his in Japan, and the point of him that he's really weird and bizarre because he's kind of gone native and he just has typical Japanese decorations in his house and wears a kimono. And that's fucked up and weird. That's crazy.
Goodness.
Also Sean Connery talks Japanese, which is really funny.
Yeah, you get to hear him do the 𝕤𝕖𝕟𝕕 because he's got a master's degree in Oriental languages or something.
Yeah, that's the funniest part. He studied Eastern languages. What the fuck does that mean, dude? There's a couple of those.
Please answer Inglourious Bastards here.
It is very
buongiorno. Arigato gozaimasu.
It is very similar in kind of vibe there. And maybe if we can cut one in, if we do end up editing this.
We'll edit in a picture of Japanese Sean Connery.
Yeah, you probably can throw that up.
Oh no.
Furious Googling.
Yeah, this... Sorry, man, every time I see it.
You have severely destroyed your own algorithm now. Oh, goodness me, it's worse. It's worse than I imagined.
Yeah.
What the heck? That doesn't even look Japanese.
That's what I'm saying.
This is, yeah. First he must become a Japanese. as the film says.
That's what spies do.
He even undergoes like a sham Japanese wedding to a Japanese woman for no reason.
Yeah, that's not relevant to the plot. Oh, it kind of is, because he's supposed to be making him less conspicuous on the island, but they're there for like 2 days.
Yeah. It's like one scene that he's on the island, like it doesn't matter at all.
But you're missing the best part of it, where James Bond has to, before all this, go to ninja training school.
Oh yeah, dude. Hell yeah.
Oh no.
This is
just getting worse.
It rules. It's such like a it's such just an old film.
This shit is 60s as fuck.
Yeah, it's like, no one knows what Japan is yet, so you can just do whatever the fuck you want.
Oh no. This is now it's worse. Well, yes, and I don't know if that in Die Another Day was like a way of making a point on that, apologizing, whatever. No.
I always thought it was like maybe a riff on that, because again, like the surgery to become like white specifically was like quite weird. Like not any just kind of like other facial reconstruction or disguise, or like in the James Bond franchise, they've shown like perfect copy masks that you can just put over your face that function perfectly. And that exists, so I think it has to be a callback, surely.
At least they used a different actor, right? Like they didn't just make an Asian guy white.
I forget who the actor is for it, actually, but they have him do like silly stuff like sword fights and all that, and they do like, I think there's a scene like at the end of where Brosnan and the guy have had like a sparring sword fight where, revealing his true nature, he picks up the katana.
Ooh.
I love Sean Connery films, but they almost killed me finishing them. No, sorry. I love the Pierce Brosnan films, but they almost killed me watching them.
You can say that about any of them, right?
Yeah, they really did. So you're really good.
What is the lethal dose of James Bond movies?
Yeah, I guess I guess like a fun fact is like in filming Die Another Day, Halle Berry, who was the Bond girl for that film, apparently she almost dies like twice. One time in like she almost chokes on something and is saved by Pierce Brosnan apparently, which is good ups to him. And another time like a stunt goes horrifically wrong on that facility raid in Cuba.
Mm-hmm.
Eleanor, I don't know if you remember that.
No, I don't. But I also would like to point out, thank you, Halle Berry, for me finding out about my bisexuality. Thank you.
Yeah, there's a lot of Bond girls you could point to for that. I guess like that's like maybe like falling into like the trap of it, like, oh wow, beautiful woman. But like if you put Halle Berry or Grace Jones or whatever on my screen, like what the fuck do you want? These are stunning women.
Yeah, and you talked about stunt work going wrong.
Yeah, and I don't know the exact details of it off the top of my head because I didn't write notes. But yeah, it's something wrong with the stunts, and I think she was put in hospital with like a broken limb or something like that. But
Shit.
But apparently she liked it, and she would have loved. She apparently would have like loved to have come back and done more of them. So it can't have been that bad.
Yeah. I mean, I have not seen Halle Berry in many things, but from the vibe of it, she seems to be absolutely cool. And I think the first actress to like pick up her Golden Raspberry Award for camera. Because I remember there's a clip of it out there that she actually went to the event and like pick it up and like do like a fake Oscar acceptance speech, like with the crying and everything. Like, oh god, thank you so much, I'm so honored. She seems to be like absolutely cool.
A good sport at the very least.
Yeah. Die Another Day. I feel like it feels in one time very James Bondy, with like the different like in brackets exotic places we go to. You have bad guys with cool designs and other questionable decisions. Very. It's corny because it's also CGI. It's like the early days of 2000 CGI, where things can look very jank. Where James Bond uses, I think, a piece of a sled to surf kite board back to somewhere. He gets followed by space laser. They are on a plane where cars fall out and they get stuck like vertically in the ground when they fall out. That's like very fun.
Yeah.
But it's preposterous. It's over the top.
Giant ice palace.
Giant ice palace.
The weird double cross of that. I forget what her name is. There's like, she's supposed to be like the nerdier spy woman or whatever, but then she's actually evil. Yeah, it's all so silly. Like,
she has like an ice pun name. I forgot it. What is your name? Come back here.
Is it like, it must
She's
be
also
Frost
famous.
or something, like a last name, but
Die another day. Rosamund Pike is
there
playing
you go.
it. It's like, good that you're here. Miranda Frost. There we have it. Okay, Wikipedia tells me that apparently before Halle Berry, Salma Hayek was considered. Okay.
You could tell me any female actress was considered at some point,
Yeah.
and I would believe you.
The casting of Miss Moneypenny, I think, always cracks me up because there are two Bond jokes because she's actually called Samantha Bond,
Yeah.
the actress, who then I think uses the hologram machine to like have a steamy POV fanfiction moment with the fictional Pierce Brosnan.
Yeah, that's also really weird as well, and I guess that's like, it's supposed to be like Bond and Moneypenny have like always sort of flirted but never like hit it off in any kind of serious way, and this was like supposed to be a moment of catharsis, but it's just her in VR. Like she locked into the goon deck and was just like, I'm gonna fuck James Bond.
It's the Q goon deck. Yeah, and there's apparently one joke that I only got like later, which also has like an extra added layer in German. James Bond picks up like a book on ornithology and like some glasses, and then he goes to the beach and like of course watches Halle Berry. She comes in, and what are you doing? She said, I'm watching at some birds. This is fun because birds, like Vögel means to fuck in German. So that like adds a layer. But also, and I didn't know that, there is an actual ornithologist called James Bond. Yeah, that's a joke apparently.
Yeah, it's all references to the franchise, and like of course the most obvious joke is, in British English, birds are also girls.
Yeah, true. Yeah, but shout out to ornithologist James Bond, who apparently also did things.
He wrote a book on ornithology.
Yeah.
Despite
birds.
Despite being tied to the name James Bond. If I had the name of like a popular like film character, I might just like retire from public life. I don't know if I could handle it. Yeah, if I was like, I don't know, Tony Stark or whatever, I might just end it.
Okay, thanks, bye.
Yeah, no.
Just out. Yeah, I just see something completely underutilized character like in the cast role. Apparently, Madonna was in that. I completely forgot about that.
Yeah, she's at she's
the
at the castle in the when they do the sword fight. She's the like lady friend or whatever at the time. She was just apparently around and was like agreed to be in the film.
She did the theme for
also
Dawn of the Day as well, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I believe so. Yeah.
Yeah.
Pretty terrible. It's a pretty bad Bond.
No. Yeah.
when I listened to that, I thought it was Britney Spears.
Yeah, it's that era of Madonna.
Yeah, it is just like that time. It is just pop of that time, which is like probably a little bit more nostalgic now, but it's still not a good song.
Nice. Should we put a little bow on Little Pierce Brosnan?
Yeah, I mean, I could speak sort of briefly on the other two films, like not over
sure.
long. So yeah, there's kind of two films in the middle, and they sort of like GoldenEye is like the very first attempt of Bond to like put some themes in the story, and they're really surface level, but they're really earnestly trying, and it's kind of like quite cute, baby's first step sort of thing, and they think they get a little bit too confident with themselves. And don't learn how to make anything more subtle. So for the next two films, you have these very unsubtle metaphors around like oil, oil executives and oil control around the state, or luxury smugglings, or media control, or whatever. Like the least subtle allegory to Rupert Murdoch you could possibly put in a film. But you get to watch, but it's the modern Bond, it's the cool Bond, so you get to watch, Pierce Brosnan do silly things like control his cell phone from his car or whatever.
Wow.
Yeah, the future is here. Well, control his car from his cell phone, sorry. But then, yeah, as serious as it tries to be, because it's being very sort of insecure about the existence of Austin Powers, you still like slip back into these classic, very, very silly Bond characters come in, like, oh, I am Dr. Kaufman, I'm here to shoot you.
What I love about this era is that they don't even like get German guys. There's like always somebody else like doing the German accent. It's like, at least get yourself a German, like put him in there. Udi Kier is right there. Just take him.
My favorite thing about that scene with Dr. Kaufman in Tomorrow Never Dies is it's a scene that Pierce Brosnan is trying to act completely straight. Like his old flame has died, his former lover has sort of died, the stakes are sort of rising as this media empire is like being revealed to be shady and sort of controlling and creating these events, and in comes campy man being like, this is my 5 seconds of fame, I am going to ham the shit out of this German accent.
My goodness. I think we have to talk about it maybe more briefly, but OSS 117, the French spy novel series that also had lots of movies, but has like the Jean Dujardin reboot, and is very much a parody on the Sean Connery era of once, and there like he just straight up like meets Nazis. So I'm reminded of those like French guys doing the German accents. And I love OSS 117. It was also like rampantly bisexual, but absolutely cannot admit it. It's perfect.
There's lots of other like Euro spy like bits and pieces around, but OSS is definitely the sort of other one of the big ones that stuck, at least in the francophone world. And it's a lot of fun. Some of the films are, I think, less interesting than others, and I kind of wish the modern ones were a little bit more biting with their critique, but it definitely is like a fun parody of the period of time, and like of the types of how like spying used to be, these silly code phrases and catchwords, and just sort of like white man walking into area and being the most conspicuous motherfucker possible.
Yeah. Yeah, and there's also a lot of like post-colonial French criticism like in there that he's like absolutely not aware of. It's like, oh, you have to go to like Maghreb, I think Morocco, which is like a Muslim world, so you need to be more open. It's like what? So like he doesn't like get the concept of like other religions, or it's like, oh yeah, I need to go out and get my colonial dress, the white one. So it's like one of these like safari outfits. Yeah, or like he makes fun of like his Arabian colleague's name, because it's that's too complicated. I'm Jean-Pierre Borisseur de Labat. So like his name's like equally as complicated. So yeah, it's like he's like rampantly racist, narcissist, but it works so well because one, Jean Dujardin is absolutely charming guy. Also, this combination of of director and Jean Dujardin would a few years later do The Artist.
Oh, yeah.
George Hazanavicius. And they capture this look of 60s Bond so well, like right down to the lighting and just how people move. Like he has this like great over the top movement as well, that he like turns to the camera like Vada. Yeah, if you have the chance of watching Jean Dujardin's OSS 117, I think the first one, the second one is also good. Third one you can drop because it's like a different director and like plays in the 80s. But yeah, watch those for like a fun James Bond, but also spy movie riffing.
Yeah. I guess we can shuffle along to, maybe do we want to shuffle along to like Daniel Craig, or do we want to jump back a little bit to give Boris some time?
I'm good with whatever.
Yeah, Boris, please feel free to drop all of the knowledge that you have.
I did post an Etsy link to buy the County Blue romper from
Yeah,
Oh,
I've seen it. I'll keep that in mind for sure. Gotta pull it out during the summer.
Yeah. My God, they just let Connery wear anything. What a little slut. Put that up on screen. Incredible. Boris's name in Discord for the longest time was Maoist Sean Connery as well, from obviously in Dr. No when he wears the Chinese drip.
Oh shit! Hell yeah! I forgot about that.
Yeah, that's the same thing there.
So yeah, the two most recent ones I watched is again the Weeaboo Sean Connery movie, which was an experience.
yes.
And I think it's perhaps to talk about George Lazenby, because that's the most recent one I saw like a couple hours ago. George only starred as Bond in like this one movie, I think, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he's only in this one. He's not an actor either, which is pretty easy to tell from most of the film.
Yeah, I was kind of wondering like what your opinion on him is, because I think there's a lot of or there used to be maybe a lot of critique around for him being the worst Bond, and people have sort of softened on it over time.
Mm-hmm.
I'm definitely softer on him. Whereas George Lazenby is a model. He can't act, but he knows how to carry himself, and he's so naturally charismatic throughout the film. Like, he walks and holds himself like so well throughout everything, and it's just the small things that like completely separate him from like a Sean Connery Bond, to sort of make a sort of statement of a separate character. You know, he's sort of a bit more charming and pleasing to people around him. You know, he's a bit softer. He sort of is plays people along a bit more, rather than sort of being fast and loose and a bit more aggressive.
Yeah, that's the word I would use for sure. Is like he seems like a bit of a softer Bond, just
Yeah, and he can't act, so there's a lot of like really awkward scenes throughout it. It is kind of fun, sort of halfway through, where he goes undercover, and he's sort of going undercover as a gay Scotsman. So they do actually dub him over with a Scottish accent, which and it does lead to...
And he still ends up seducing like 2 women.
Yeah, it probably does lead to one of the funnier bits in like an old Bond film where his seduction is kind of just like, oh, well, I'm in this facility to because I'm gay and need fixing. Do you want to fix me? And they're all like, oh, of course. I think a lot of people point to the like ending scene where the final scene.
Yeah,
where it's like suddenly he knows how to act, and he doesn't. He doesn't know how to act. The director like had him repeating the scenes for like 12 hours straight, so he was just he was actually emotionally drained. So
well, it works pretty well. I think it's the most tragic ending scene of any Bond movie I've seen so far. It's not just like Sean Connery on like a float seducing another woman.
Yeah, he's not just fucking someone in a boat at the end. It sort of like leaves real questions and like real stakes, and then that sort of just never leads to anything. But it does raise the interesting concept of, rather than method acting, method directing.
I need this guy to be
approach.
fucked up in the scene, so I'm gonna fuck him up.
Yeah.
Was that the one? I don't want to spoil the movie, but
it's 50 years old. Who cares a shit?
Yeah, it's 50 years old. Is that the one where he marries a girl and like on their honeymoon, like she gets like straight up killed?
Like the final scene is them driving off from the wedding, and then her getting shot.
Yeah, but because that stayed with me, like in this Katamari ball of Bond memories, like that I remember. That was like kind of a shocking. Yeah.
It stands out amongst everything, which is so funny from a film that I know a lot of people find quite dry. I quite like it overall, but I know I'm in the minority for sure.
Another interesting thing is I think Lazenby is a bit better of a physical actor when it comes to doing the action scenes than Connery was.
I think I say to Boris, or like in a review or whatever that I put on Letterboxd, Sean Connery fights like a Tekken character. Like it's so stiff and heavy, whereas Lazenby actually sort of seems to have some knowledge or direction or whatever on fighting. Yeah,
Connery loves doing that move where he like slams both fists into someone.
He text throws on people all the time.
Also, like, the action scenes in this were like, it's like they discovered they can undercrank their action scenes and just sort of edit them like Taken action scenes. It's like 50.
Oh, with the 12 cuts in 7 seconds.
Yeah, it's like 150 cuts per scene or some shit.
Oh.
Which must have been revolutionary to watch in like the 60s, but
yeah, probably went crazy when you'd only ever seen like The Wizard of Oz. Bond was sort of at the forefront of a lot of cinematic techniques, but usually not very well. And Thunderball's kind of the classic example of this, where underwater photography had just been invented. So they did a whole lot of it, and then sort of like to justify it, they put in way too much. So there's these really long uncut scenes of just like guys moving underwater all the time, and just like random shots of like fish. It was like, man, we've got to make the use of this very expensive underwater photography.
Roll the B footage. It's all we have. We paid lots of money for it.
Yeah, there's a lot of nothing happening in that film. And like, because it's new as well, they sort of haven't learned simple things like maybe you should give these guys some more distinct uniforms or colors when they're under the dark water and it's difficult to distinguish them and they're trying to fight each other. Yeah.
Maybe they should have gone the Lucio Fulci route and just had Bond like bite a shark. Like in actual for real life.
I mean, you get some of that silliness a little bit later on. Like you get the Octopussy scene where Roger Moore runs across the backs of a bunch of crocodiles or whatever.
Oh yeah.
Hell yeah.
That I remember.
Also, this movie was had like the goriest death scene I've seen in a Bond movie, where like a guy gets just shredded by a snowplow into like red mist, and then Bond quips like a shitty one-liner about it.
There's a few like terrible kills. Like some of them are like pretty straight up and down, but then some of them are completely horrifying. I still come back to the maggot incubator, which is just Bond. It's not even like a super not even like a villain of any kind. It's just a security guard that Bond like slams into a maggot incubator and then locks him inside, which is just
Why?
well, he found him.
Oh.
He has the license to kill, I guess.
I think that's the name of the film.
Didn't specify that the killing needs to be justified.
Yeah. That's a fun one to talk about at some point because it's a very 80s film.
Ooh, nice.
But I can't wait to get around to more different Bond actors and then eventually power scale them.
Well, you've got one more. If you're following canon, you've got one more Sean Connery film. If you're doing non-canons, you got 2 more Sean Connery films.
Oh no.
Yeah, just a slight mention maybe of the non-canon Bond film that's kind of just Thunderball a second time, called Never Say Never Again. But Sean Connery is way too old to be doing this shit.
Sorry, were these the like non-James Bond license?
There was like, I don't know the specifics of it. There was something fucky with the license of it, and I've only ever seen it once because it's really fucking bad.
Okay. Yeah, I only know that I think the Broccoli family has it. So if you like see the Broccoli name like in the title sequence, like you're safe. But I think also it wasn't like the entire license like bought by MGM Studio, which now belongs to Amazon just a while ago.
Potentially, I'm not super up with like the licensing.
Yeah.
Is there like a stated reason why Connery didn't return on Her Majesty's Secret Service? Because I feel like a lot of that movie was sort of built around him being there as Bond. Like the wedding stuff and the scene at the wedding where he looks back at Moneypenny and she's crying and he throws her head would probably hit harder with like Connery there.
I think there was like some contractual issues or whatever, and then they wanted to get in a new guy sort of anyway. Like I think Connery wasn't all that interested in doing another one. So then they get Lazenby, and then Lazenby, like, sort of, him or his agent sort of think the franchise isn't doing anything, going nowhere. So they give Connery, like, $1 million to come back and do Diamonds Are Forever, which in, 1970 whatever money, that's an insane amount of money.
That's a considerable part of the movie's budget.
Yeah.
Alright, so Diamonds Are Forever is the next one. I got that one downloaded. I'll get around to it eventually.
Yeah, that's a fun one. But then, yeah, sort of following that, you have Roger Moore, who is, like, because he's got so many films, he kind of is, like, a quintessential image of Bond. But, like, he also has probably a good amount of the worst Bond films. There's a couple good ones tucked in there, but there's a lot of just really nothing ones. Like, a lot of them feel the same, or a lot of them are, like, really bad, or, deeply racist or something,
As you do.
Yeah. I do like View to a Kill as the last Moore film, because it does sort of feel like at the end of an era, it is sort of starts to acknowledge that he's an old man, which is something that Moore himself was quite sensitive about, I think, in the filming of the last film as well. Like, he was talking to one of his co-stars, or like one of the girls in the film, and he sort of found out her age, and he went, "Oh, she's young enough to be my daughter. I gotta stop doing this."
Like the sudden moment of clarity.
But yeah, his films are sort of like, I've been a little bit, so they're not so fresh in my mind. But yeah, there's a lot of issues there. But then A View to a Kill is still weird in like a lot of ways. It still has a lot of the hang-ups of the later more films in terms of like bad guys and women and all that kinds of stuff. But it sort of shows the side of James Bond aging and retiring and coming to a close, as well as the emergence of kind of new technologies like the computer is here, things like that.
Wow,
the horse computer. It's a computer that can show you the horse.
What?
Ooh.
And it's a good bridging point into like later films, I think. And it's also got a Duran Duran song as its soundtrack, so it's the best Bond theme by default.
Nice.
I am curious how Timothy Dalton is as Bond, because I think he's like the most beautiful man out of all of these.
He's up there for sure.
It's a 2-film run, and it's a banging 2-film run. It's like 2 80s action films, essentially. Hard and fast. The English accent slips more and more, so you just have a Welsh guy on like a rampage, like Reign of Terror, looking for revenge. It's very action heavy. Very like I guess a bit more American kind of bad guys, like it's drug cartels and stuff like that, and there's a lot of some of it's like set around like Florida, and so that sort of feels like a reaction to the times, like trying to be a bit more American, sort of before that Pierce Brosnan Cool Britannia revival comes. In the 80s, Britain shit. It sucked.
It's just bad.
Yeah, like you don't want to really want to be alluding to it much. You kind of want to be keeping away from it, so you don't see a huge amount of it really.
I just looked up Timothy Dalton again, and I think my favorite role of him is Hot Fuzz.
Yeah,
he's
that's
like the supermarket attendant. It fits so well.
The most people's picture of Timothy Dalton in their mind will be when he's standing in front of the smiling picture of himself in Hot Fuzz.
Yes. It's great.
All timer, truly.
You have to catch me. I'm a slasher. What? Slasher of prices.
And we can come back to these beautiful men another time, but I think we can move on to what we really can have a lot to talk about, which is Daniel Craig. Mm-hmm. We've already talked a little bit on him.
Hey. Please, you can introduce him.
No, I was just going to say, you have something you mentioned before, which is the whiplash between 2002 Bond and 2006 Bond.
Oh, absolutely, because I kind of recreate that by watching that, like, as I said, 15 years of not watching Die Another Day, then rewatching it and going, oh god, this is so outdated yet so campy, and it tries so many things, and I can just see Austin Powers all over that. And then of course that the Pierce Brosnan run ended, and then 4 years nothing happened, and then bada bing bada boom, it's Casino Royale that comes in, and I did kind of the same. I rewatched 1, and then I think 1 or 2 weeks later I watched Casino Royale, and it's night and day. Goodness me. It just starts with that cool, like, black and white, very, very grisly scene of him killing his first kill, like smashing a guy into a sink, and then saying, but your second kill is like bang, shoots the other guy, and saying, yeah, it's much easier. And then that, like, it really like sets the tone immediately, saying like, okay, we have like a new, younger Bond again, who is like very still raw, very physical. Like, I can about the physical amount of acting that goes into Daniel Craig Bond. Like, that man beats people up and gets beaten up. Like, that man is just under attack at all times.
And he looks like it by the end of the films as well. He looks like shit. Like...
Yeah, he's just like divorced crow. Like absolutely, like, everything like, stands off in like weird ways. I'm just very surprised like how good this is, and that is the same director as GoldenEye. I have no clue how that happened. But some things that I remember from that day, because in these days, like I watched Casino Royale in the cinema. I must have been around 15, 16, around there. I was already interested in films, and I saw during that time like the headlines that were leading up to, oh, that's the new Bond. People were not keen on Daniel Craig before. I remember there was
articles on the news being like concerned because he had blonde hair. Like that was such a big controversy. Yeah.
Oh no. I remember there must be some articles back then where they did a promo shot where he was on a speedboat on the Thames and then got off. And people were upset that he was wearing a swim vest. Because James Bond doesn't wear that. He just comes out with a suit. It's like, no, you have to like give this man a vest for this boat on the Thames, for goodness sake. I think there's like rules for that. And also that he was driving a car, either an automatic car or a car with like stick shift. But in any case, people were upset about that. And the last one was that apparently some people, but that must have been like really tabloid stuff, that they said, he played gay roles before. I think in Enduring Love, he like kissed a man or whatever.
Yeah.
It's like, what if there's a Bond boy instead of a Bond
he's in that
girl?
like Francis Bacon movie from like '98 where he's in a gay relationship with Derek Jacobi. So like, it's before and after Bond and during Bond, Daniel Craig has been homoing it up fully.
Yep.
One for the gays.
That man just has fun. So I remember absolutely all of this before. And I think this is why back then, like this, when the film then actually came out, was then such like a big hit on popular culture. It's like, no, he absolutely showed that he could do it. And that he was the man for this role. Because he's a new Bond, and wowee.
Also the first Bond that was jacked.
Yes.
I mean, there were big Bonds. Like, Bonds was never, like, fat or anything. But, yeah, like, it's especially, like, in relation to, like, other guys, Daniel Craig was fucking jacked.
Yeah. That is, like, a unit of a man that just walks out.
I guess it's kind of a now iconic scene of him walking like out of the ocean onto the beach, and just being fucking huge. Yeah.
I have on the unfortunate, let's say, a quirk of like whenever I see like a nice pair of male chest on the TV, to just mutter titties under my breath, and my boyfriend going, where? And my boyfriend muttering, where? And he's like, oh no, the male titty. Oh, okay. But like he had to understand, like, oh no, it's interchangeable. I've seen more Daniel Craig titty than other titty in his movies.
It's one for the gays.
Yeah.
But he couldn't wear the romper, so who's to say if he's good or bad?
They should have put him in the blue romper just for me.
Yeah,
that's a treat.
Yeah,
it was really good.
But he has like the cute sailor pajama in a Glass Onion, so that's nice.
Yeah, I mean, I guess kind of in the same year that, you know, the last Brosnan film comes out, another spy film comes out called The Bourne Identity.
Yeah.
Yes, that's also what I pointed to out. That was, I think, next to Austin Powers, the like final nail in the coffin.
Yeah, Bond had to sort of die for a few years to come back fundamentally changed, and while it's not exactly as the Bourne Identity, like I think it's shot a lot differently, and I think it's shot much better. It definitely draws a lot of its tone from that, and some of its color palette, not all.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's grittier. It's much more physical. Daniel Craig gets manhandled several times, especially by Bautista in Spectre. That just man just has damage. And also like pretty visual stuff, like that he gets drugged and then like has to like salt poison himself to like throw up.
That stuff in the car, like in between the games of poker, is quite like, it feels quite visceral to watch. It's very upsetting.
Does he get like cock and ball tortured?
Yeah, I mean,
Yes.
it's. I like to imagine Hideo Kojima watching this film and getting to the end and then just like sitting bolt upright as Mads Mikkelsen, who plays Le Chiffre in this film and does an incredible job because he's Mads Mikkelsen, whips a nude Daniel Craig through a bottomless chair in the dick and balls with a knotted rope. In recent stories that have come out, I've not read through all of them. I don't know how true they are, but apparently Craig and Mikkelsen would like do little improvisations throughout the scenes of filming that and make everyone else in the room uncomfortable. So
Do remember though that Hideo Kojima is not the gay.
There is like a great quote that I think from the early 2000s, where I think for the PS2 Metal Gear Solid, he said, "Yeah, I have to make Solid Snake's ass good to look at, because many people will look at it for a long time, so it needs to be good to look at."
Yep.
And then the next sentence is, "Please quote on me that I have a wife and that I am married. This is just for gameplay purpose."
The most heterosexual man ever.
really straight, really straight.
Yeah. I think the other thing with like Casino Royale, and I think like the Doctor Who revival went through a similar thing where it's like really needing to stand out a lot compared to just the breadth of things doing similar things. Because like at the same time you've got like Mission Impossible, Fast and Furious was starting up, all of these like early 2000s, late 90s like action franchises. Not all of them like ever reached the heights of like Bond, but like there was definitely this huge thing of like, okay, we need to do something that really like defines Bond. And like, you know, like Doctor Who had the same thing where it was like, okay, we need like serious, like charming, grisly Doctor Who to like really define the generation. And they definitely had the same challenge with Casino Royale to like figure out how to make it stand out among just a huge amount of like action espionage sort of franchises that were coming out.
Yeah, and I think what sort of what you can sort of tell of the time and the biggest show of the time is the end of the film is Bond's not like eating shit, but he's not in a great position. Yeah. Like things have not entirely gone his way, and he's really had to suffer to get to this place.
I think what I find interesting, like around the 2010s and before that, you have like what I mentioned earlier, like a sort of reboot of like big British pop culture times. Of course, our dear friend Sherlock with Mr. Moffat, Jack Hill before that. You have Doctor Who, of course. And then I think the 11th Doctor was another jump forward.
With Skyfall we'll get
just
to,
in the look and feel of it. Yeah, with Skyfall as well. So there was really a time where UK was on the top of its soft power, of just dictating pop culture. With I think also the Tumblr era with Super Wholock and stuff like is from that time.
Yeah, there's other things as well. Like that's obviously the Harry Potter books are sort of done by then, but that's sort of when the modern Harry Potter fandom comes into swing. Big TV shows, BBC produced TV shows like Broadchurch are also striking popular. You're sort of getting new British soft power music in the likes of like One Direction are coming out.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, there's so many things you can sort of draw from this era in terms of like examples.
Yeah, that was also that era where I decided to study British culture. Like I have a master's degree in English and literature and culture, so I can bring that to the table. But because at that time I think like UK was very much on top of its game when it came to like media and like being good at it. then somewhere else Brexit, but let's go to that later.
No, we're not. It sort of starts to sort of slow crank down, like on the sort of Tory defunding of
it's
the
it's very
arts.
much the coalition era, very like the kind of trying to rebuild after the financial crash, the Olympics, royal wedding, Diamond Jubilee, that period. It feels like a very distinct time, whereas like Brexit, you know, how many years of Tory leadership we had at that point, and just like complete distrust in everything. I think, you know, I distinctly remember like Britain feeling a whole lot less cool in comparison to America, because at that point you still had Obama, and like literally every like political panel show at the time was like commenting on how like David Cameron was infinitely less cool than Obama, who like obviously politically we're not that far apart, but like, you know, there is that sheen of Hollywood with Obama that just wasn't there with Britain. Britain could not compete with that, and I think that's a huge part of like that difference in time.
Yeah, now that you mention it, like for one, I remember, of course, the Olympics, the 2012, which had Bond, Daniel Craig, in it, with like the Queen jumping out of a plane. That was like a very big thing. It's like also millions of views on YouTube still. I should look at it again. But then also, I think you have like this big impact of 2012 Avengers movie, like from the Americas. So I think this is where also like the whole Marvel universe that gets kicked into gear, that which would then also very much dictate pop culture for a long time.
Yeah, if there was like a British entertainment industry that still kind of existed, that wasn't just like panel talk shows, this like sort of era of ailing, the sort of Marvel sort of failing and falling flat, would be a great chance for, you know, the Bond revivals to come back and find cinema again. But it's just not going to happen. Like, I think it's just kind of done. You know, there was the Flash in the 90s and the Flash in the sort of across the aughts and the 2010s, and then it's just sort of done. There's just not that same energy anymore.
You probably have more insight on this than I do, but what was the Tory defunding of arts?
Just broader austerity, really. It was so you get that coalition government coming in, sort of as Ali said, and as things sort of, it's post financial crash, and it was a good time to sort of try promote Britain once the economy sort of ticked up again. Sort of say from like 2010, then you have 2012 Olympics, and you could sort of leverage that art and BBC as soft power. And then sort of, as you say, after that 2012, a lot of the enthusiasm kind of dies. Like, it's very obvious the Olympics were a deeply expensive event to hold. Marvel is sort of entering the exciting cinema space. Those sort of smaller British films aren't really taking hold anymore. Like, say, a Guy Ritchie flick isn't really drawing anything
Harry
anymore.
Potter was done at that point. Like, I'm pretty sure, it's 2011 the last of the movies? Like, it's around that time anyway.
Yeah, and you kind of have a lot of these artists that have gone quite international and aren't really drawing on Britain as any kind of the image anymore. Like, I don't know if One Direction's kind of gone by then, or they're on the way out.
X Factor in general is like on the way out at that point. Like,
and X Factor's made its way to the
like
US. Adele has kind of superseded that. Even smaller things like Charlie XCX are so disconnected from that at the time. The British identity in the media is lost, and more and more money is pulled away to sort of pay for these, you know, weird vanity projects, and sort of funneling towards landlords and scams, and, you know, you sort of start the Tory scam economy sort of around 2013, 14.
And like with like Bond themes, like obviously Adele does the Skyfall theme, and then they try and that was like remember that being a huge hit, and then I think it's like Sam Smith for the Spectre theme, which also goes for that similar vibe, and like they were having a moment at the time, so like that certainly did well. But then like No Time to Die is Billie Eilish, so like not a British star at all. It's an upcoming American star. Like, it's very, that shift is happening even in the themes. Although I don't remember who did the Quantum of Solace theme, so
I can't.
I don't remember a single thing about it.
Oh, it's garbage. I think,
might
isn't
be.
It's garbage.
Is it Quantum of Solace? No, who does which garbage does one of them?
Alicia Keys? Okay.
Oh, well.
Okay.
Garbage does one of the Bond films. I think it might be one of the Brosnan ones.
Well, yeah, I think...
The World Is Not Enough.
That is... I think for me, like, now that I've seen 4 of the 5 and Quantum of Solace that has just dropped out, which I also felt like I didn't need it. Like, I feel like I got like the whole story of all of it. Is that I think my favorites still remain Casino Royale as this like big bang of a start. Also with like, of course, the physicality of Daniel Craig, which has like also stunts that this franchise has never done of, and especially parkour. I remember with like the beginning scene through this entire construction site.
Yeah, that's
which
quite
has
good.
Aged exceptionally well. This film does not feel from 2006. Like, I have seen other films from 2000s that do not have aged that well. And then for me, like 2012, Skyfall is, I think, the two highlights for me in the Craig era. Because I think Skyfall like really caught me really well. It goes into like you have like this modern London, which is grey. You have M as Judi Dench, much more involved, and I think does an exceptional performance, which is like a triple way of either like a mother character that James Bond never had, because he's an orphan that goes into his story. Of course, the embodiment of a chief, sort of England, and of course, if you want to stretch it that far, the Queen.
Oh, extremely,
as like a matriarch, that is on her way out, and then of course, passes away at the end of the film. It is to get killed for her sins, as like not treating herself well. I think in the side sentence they mentioned that she has done some shit in Hong Kong. I can imagine that. So yeah, it feels like very post-colonial in that way. It's like bringing this aspect back into James Bond is like the sins of the past that needs to be looked at.
Yeah, and I think I know you didn't see it, but I think Quantum of Solace does tie into that quite well. So it does start of like, what if the ideals you've sort of been told and the country you love doesn't really love you back or actually hold those ideals, it is sort of a post-war in Iraq film in a good way, which I really like. And it is sort of a man on war with his ideals to try and do something and sort of struggling it away from that state apparatus and sort of having to find himself outside of being this killing machine and ultimately kind of failing, which I really like. Quantum of Solace is quite a dour ending, but still quite a good bridge into the later films. I really like
Skyfall is like Skyfall's relationship with like Empire and stuff is really quite fascinating. Like, the kind of like tail end of that movie is like, oh yeah, the last bastion of the British Empire is this tiny manor in middle of nowhere of Scotland. Like, it comes down to like, oh, you get all of these like iconic locations, like, the attack on the headquarters, the destruction of the underground, and it all just ends up in this like middle of nowhere in Scotland with like, as you said, the character that basically represents the Queen at this point, and Bond. It's a weird one.
And
it's just it's a really weird movie, especially when you consider like it's like at this peak of like trying to like bring back Cool Britannia. It might as well have a tie-in to the London Olympics. Like, it's a but it's also like very much like grappling with the the end of an era and those willing to fight for the era and stuff. It's a very strange one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to pass, but the film works.
Yeah, it's a good
screen to watch.
Mm-hmm. I am really happy about the inclusion of Javier Bardem.
He's so good at that.
In this movie. He has so much fun with his role, just like fruiting it up, but also being very threatening at the same time. As like one agent that tried to do the best for his country and then absolutely failed, also in killing himself with like this great reveal of like the cyanide pill that just melted half of his face away. Also bringing out the canon bisexuality in Bond, which had started with Mads Mikkelsen, but now finished with Javier Bardem. Great scene, because I need to do a tiny tangent on one of the best cinema experiences that I had with this film. I went to see Skyfall with my mum because she liked the Daniel Craig movie slot. She wanted to see it. We came in and we had behind us a rowdy bunch of teenagers, and in front of us a group of older ladies, I would say 70 and up, who decided to come with their wine bottles into the cinema, which is allowed in a German cinema, by the way. So like we had these rowdy guys behind us who were like all about commenting like everything goes like, oh, it's like great cars, oh look at these great girls. So we shut them up once, I think, but yeah, you could still hear some of the comments. Javier Bardem appears, and they sort of like, oh god, get this guy away, and then James Bond like drops the line of like, what makes you think this is my first time? And then they shut up for the rest of the film. Like, that line was so strong, they just made them shut up for the rest of the movie. Which is great. Like, thank you for like hyper masculinitying these guys into submission. And the other moment was, I later found out like these ladies that are in front of me are like obviously like either from the UK, are here to enjoy this. And when the line "Welcome to Scotland" happens, where our Mr. The handler of the mansion like straight up shotguns like a guy away and says "Welcome to Scotland," like these ladies just broke out into cheering. It's like, hey, woo! Probably already with one or two bottles in to the movie, but yeah, that was my experience of watching Skyfall in the cinema. Great experience. I had both sides in it.
Yeah, I guess just as like a note for anyone that hasn't seen it, it's Skyfall is everything we mentioned, and then ends on a Home Alone sequence.
Extremely.
Yes.
Judi Dench makes...
I love the shotgun shells with nails and the
shrapnel
chandelier.
bombs and stuff. That's so good.
I mean, it makes sense for like him to like return to childhood,
Yeah.
like only having like the means of like returning there. It's a fun movie, and I think it remains my favorite out of the James Bondses from Daniel Craig.
Yeah, it's one of the few times in the films that it sort of ties into Bond's past and childhood. Like he is explicitly from a Scottish father and a Swiss mother, I think.
Something
it
like
is.
that, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, and they've never sort of been able to draw on that because the point of Bond is that he's like an orphan anyway. But it's nice that it is acknowledged. It's not all just like England, James. You know, there is a little bit more to it.
Oh yeah, and I forgot that of course Javier Bardem is the first one to like properly point out that M is like lying to James, that he has been reinstated with full passing on everything. It's like, no, you failed your physical, you failed your mental evaluation, you failed all of this, but still she likes you. And I feel like you're also like, I like this accumulating damage on Daniel Craig's Bond. It's like, yeah, that man does not get stronger. Like he gets like more and more destructive, and destroyed over the course of his 5-movie run.
Yeah, I'd be keen to see, because I'm. It's been a while. I'm not super up on No Time to Die. So I'd be keen to sort of see what your take on it all wrapping up is.
On No Time to Die.
Yeah.
But I think it ties more into Spectre as well.
Yeah.
Because we have a new. I saw Spectre just once before that, like once in the cinema, and then I never felt like revisiting it, because it felt like falling off after Skyfall, because Skyfall is so strong, and then it like comes up with, of course, another cool idea about intelligence and spying on people. It has like very much Pulse of the Time as well. Also, guy who played Moriarty, Andrew Scott, is in there as C, instead of M. I really like that Christoph Waltz is in there. Love the man. Heavily underutilized, I feel. Like you could get much more out of this man.
Yeah,
but he's just
it's weird.
Vaguely threatening.
It's weird to see, because Blofeld and Spectre are such huge parts of like the Moore films and a little bit of the Connery films as well, or a good chunk of the Connery films and a little bit of the Moore films as well. So seeing it suddenly come back here, in like a Craig film, it's like huge whiplash to me. Like it feels like such a weird sort of thing to jump back to. But it also it is the story they were telling. Like it did come up to this, but yeah.
Mm-hmm. Am I allowed to spoil Spectre and No Time to Die?
We've kind of been spoiling them all so far, so you may as well just keep going. Yeah.
So this is your official spoiler warning then. Our James Bond meets Léa Seydoux character, who is also daughter of killer Mr. White, who already appeared in Casino Royale, so it all ties in neatly together. And yeah, I feel like Spectre, of course, is like a great threat in concept, but I feel like there's not much happening. Like Bond gets shown around in this like big data center, then gets drilled in his head, but nothing happens. There's a white cat, which is cute.
Blofeld's cat. Yeah,
Blofeld's cat. Good that she's there. And then he gets caught like in a helicopter boat chase over the Thames. One thing I will give Spectre is great shots of London. As somebody who has visited the city several times and loves it, great shots of the city, but it doesn't feel like having the same impact as Skyfall. And then of course, like he gets together with the Léa Seydoux character, Dr. Strauss, blah, Doctor. And then, like, No Time to Die, of course, like, ties it all up, and you feel, okay, these 5 films are now the Craig Bond, and they are finished. Because Bond dies at the end. Spoiler. Like, he sacrifices himself for a destruction of a virus farm that can DNA target people. I get it. Especially in like a post-corona time where we have all lived through pandemics and viruses and being careful about our surroundings. But they put in like a whole like daughter subline about that was the love of his life and saying goodbye to Vesper. Yes, I get that. But I don't like this narrative of like, in order for a man to grow up, he needs to have a child. There's like the heteronormativity, but then again, complaining about heteronormativity in a James Bond is like complaining about the sauna being too hot. Like, like what did I expect? But there are some good set pieces in No Time to Die. But I don't like the villain. It's like Rami Malek as like the toxicologist guy. Having to end on Rami Malek after Mads Mikkelsen, Javier Bardem, and Christoph Waltz is hard. Yeah. And I feel like he doesn't have
have those chops yet, yeah. Unfortunately for him.
So... I get it, what it wants to do, but like emotionally, I'm not like really on board. Like I'm okay that it finishes up. Like I'm not in the camp where it says like, James Bond cannot die. That's heresy. But for me, I feel like but all the Bonds can like exist in their own little pocket universes. So yeah. I mean, I have seen the joke theory that James Bond is a Time Lord, and he just reincarnates into different Bonds over the time.
Yeah, it's not clear if these are different guys or the same guys, because it's inconsistently referenced across all of the films, whether it's different guys or the same guy. Craig is like supposed to be a different guy, but then they still same guy him a couple times, I think maybe just by accident.
And like dying and not actually dying is like the most important thing for a serial hero to do. Like it's like, Superman dies, like, Batman's died however many times. Like it's like an important thing at some point for the hero to die and then come back, either just like in canon or in a separate fashion. It's just how these characters go.
Yeah, but I think importantly, as we sort of mentioned before, No Time to Die sort of strips away a lot of that sort of Britishness it had, and it is now just sort of the ending action film to a series, and it all just sort of feels a bit strained. Like Craig's very much not into it at this point. The sort of writers sort of have really fumbled this last film, and they sort of, rather than going back and rewrite it, like, well, we have to put out the Bond film, and it's it just sort of feels like all a bit of a mess. It's nice to see like Felix Leiter come back as a character after so long, who is kind of
I'm really happy.
Just kind of a Bond counterpart. He's different in like pretty much every single film, which is nice. Sometimes he's in a lot of them, Felix is like really gay coded, like especially in the older ones, which I don't know if that's just like I'm misreading that now through like a modern lens, but yeah, it was nice to see. And like, because they've sort of done so much together, they've kind of same guide Daniel Craig in this one. All the times with Felix were the same Bond, all doing the same thing with the same Felix, even though Felix is very clearly a different guy now because he is black. But it was it was a nice little send off to that as well. So I was happy to see that.
Yeah, that's something I wanted to point out, that I really like the surrounding cast of Daniel Craig's Bond that like have been built up. Like I love the new Moneypenny. Great introduction in Skyfall as well for her character. Rory Kinnear as Tanner, I think. Of course, Ben Whishaw as the new Q.
Yeah, Ray Fiennes comes in as M.
Yes. Great. The new 007, I forgot her name.
I forget her name too. Sorry. Sorry.
Yeah, she's great. Wait, I have to look this up really quick. Oh yeah, and who I really liked was the Cuban fresh actor spy. What was it? Andrea de Almos?
Oh, Ana de Armas.
Ana de Armas. Yeah, she is great. I really love her character. It's like, I'm new in the job. I'm like here for 3 weeks. And is super nervous, like drinks too much, but then like absolutely whoops everybody's ass with like high heel kicks and like guns, but then also like drives like a classic like Cuban car into a wall. So it's I would love a little spin-off series for her. Like she's great. I really like seeing her.
Well, Ana de Armas is doing well in general, I think. I don't know what she's been in recently, but she was in like Knives Out as well. So just another little tie together with that.
Yes, CIA agent Paloma is her name. Yeah, she's great. Felix Leiter also like caught me off guard on the final one, because obviously it's like Daniel Craig is like very destroyed by his death, because he like very much is dying in his arms, like shot at, and then the boat is sinking. Great riff. Also that I'm into old wrecks. Like it's like an old ship that is sinking with like both agents inside. I really liked that performance. So that I want to say I really like the surrounding cast of Daniel Craig's Bond.
Well, that scene I liked a lot as well, because in some of the old Bond films, like they'd used, I think it's a couple times, I think in the one Boris most watched as well, You Only Live Twice, they have got like these old shipwrecks as like these underwater secret bases, which is quite fun. So it's gone from these, points of intelligence, these bases, to, this sort of final meeting place, which I did really like. I don't know if that was intentional or not, but...
Mm-hmm. There was also something I wanted to mention. Oh yeah, Christoph Waltz as Blofeld. I felt it a little bit much to make them sort of half-brothers, step-brothers, I don't know, temporarily brothers, where James Bond and Blofeld were like raised temporarily by the same guy.
Is that not literally an Austin Powers thing?
Yeah,
Yes.
I was going to say, I don't know if that was something that was always in the books, because I've not read all of the books, and like a detail in the books that was put into Austin Powers, but yeah, it feels a bit... Like, if you're doing a modern adaptation, I think you could have just not done that.
Mm-hmm. And I just want to point out that everything can be solved by nanomachines.
Yay.
Which is just straight up revengeance.
Yeah, we're so far
point.
past, A View to a Kill, where you can look up a horse on the computer as a novel bit of technology.
Yeah, we have smart blood now. We can track you with the nanomachines in your blood system. And then the like DNA virus that gets released is also nanomachines, which just stay permanently on your body. And I think one of the highest letterboxd reviews was, yeah, we made nanomachine herpes to kill people. Like, that's the plot. Yeah, for the final two, like Spectre and No Time to Die, I see what they were going for. I feel like this would have needed a little bit of tidying up and like maybe some little bit different other themes to go to, but yeah, I think for some people it hits quite hard, especially like the family aspect. But for others like me, it's like it's okay. I don't think these are bad, but I think the highlights of Skyfall and Casino Royale were a little bit hard to follow. I don't know what's your general consensus on the Craig's Bonds.
I mean, like, in a perfect world, Daniel Craig suit up again. We're gonna fix these. But no, I mean, I'm kind of just happy that it is done, and I'm glad it was done in such a way that they've sort of struggled to pick up Bond again for a couple years, and I think they still might be struggling to find a way to pick up Bond again. Like, they still can't really find the right actor, and I think having a bit of that time to maybe separate for a new Bond era would be really good. In terms of the actual quality of the films, I should go back to them, but I was so like unimpressed really that I didn't really make the effort. Like, when I talk about Craig films excitedly before, we've got so much to say about the sort of first three, and then it just sort of really does kind of peter out with a whimper, and that was sort of when Craig's interest was on the way out as well, from everything that you could sort of see in the news stories about it, that he was sort of not being made to come back, but he wasn't excited to come back. Yeah. But we just got to cast Boris as the next James Bond, and we're sorted.
Yeah.
We're good.
The most British man you can think of.
You're big enough, I reckon.
I can't do the accent, dude.
I remember Boris finding out that like Sean Connery was like 6'3", and he was like, "Oh, holy shit, respect."
It's the same as me.
He's just like me for real.
Is there like any actual actors that we have sort of narrowed it down to as the future Bonds?
I remember years ago people were sort of touting Idris Elba, but I think it's too.
I think it's
kind of
too late
past
for
that
him now. If this was like after Skyfall.
I think it was pre-Spectre.
Yeah.
People were kind of like.
It's the same with like Tom Hardy. Like at the time has passed for him. I know.
Yeah, unfortunately, because I would have liked to see a Tom Hardy run, and some people say Tom Holland, and I say absolutely not.
No.
He does not have those.
No.
I was just away for a second. Are we at who's the new James Bond?
Yeah, we're just sort of doing.
We are theory
now.
crafting. I think the Henry Cavill audition tapes also were floating around a couple of days ago.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and Cavill did do like the remake film of A Man from U.N.C.L.E., which I think he did pretty well in.
Mm-hmm.
So like maybe I don't know how much interest he has in it because he just likes to sit in his rooms painting Warhammer minifigures by the sounds of every time he goes on TV to talk about it.
Which is based, of course.
Yes.
Let the man have a hobby. I am very peculiar still about Idris Elba, but I don't know if he's already
Yeah, we just
too
said
old
like
for the
I think
role.
time is past for him.
Yeah.
Like like Tom said, like pre-Spectre, and I agree. Like I could probably have seen it then.
Yeah.
But like, yeah.
Mhm.
I'm looking at this huge like Esquire article of everyone who could play it, and there's some choices. There's Daniel Kaluuya, who I don't know. Daniel Kaluuya could maybe be alright.
I think we should do Carl Urban just to have like one Bond from New
Oh,
Zealand.
that'd be cool.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Carl Urban would also be quite good for it, I think. Like unironically. I don't think he would get picked for it though. I think he has I don't know if his image quite fits what they want for Bond anymore. Which I mean sounds weird. I probably shouldn't say that because like if you took Craig at his image from the films he was in pre Bond, like close to it, maybe not either.
Man, there are some
It
picks
doesn't
in
seem
this
to be a
list.
unified image that people have anyway.
Yeah, I don't think people know what. I think like there's a good chance the next Bond will be a black guy, just because it's long overdue, I guess, for that kind of cultural shift moment. Especially with Idris Elba being like such a front runner for fan casting for so long. But it's like, who is Bond in the 2020s? It's going to be like such a thing to figure out.
Yeah, and it sort of depends on which kind of way they want to go with it. Whether they want to go like more action heavy again, or kind of seeing people's fatigue with that Marvel character, that sort of snarky, quippy action. Maybe sort of taking a step back and going to a more restrained, charismatic Bond again. Like I could see Jonathan Bailey in this list.
Yeah.
Like, if they wanted to go that one. Paul Mescal is another one, but I don't think he really fits either. Yeah, I'd be interested to see how it turns out, but
Seeing people throw around like Aaron Taylor Johnson a lot, which I'm not sure if he can pull it off, especially after Craven.
Yeah.
There's like an off the wall pick there in this list that I kind of like, in Lucien Laviscount, who I've not seen much of.
Yeah.
But if you wanted someone a bit more down to earth, then perhaps. But yeah, it really does depend.
I mean, on this Esquire list, I also see Cillian Murphy. But he feels like more
He does,
villain coded.
especially in
but-
his older age. He feels like prime, like villain.
Yeah, I think having Cillian Murphy as like a strong foil to Bond in a film would be very good.
Oh yeah, I see Daniel Kaluuya over here as well. That would make sense.
Yeah. They're just kind of listing every British actor here. Like, I love Robert Pattinson. I don't think he'd fit at all.
Yeah.
Tom Hardy's
let
past
him
it
do
now, unfortunately.
If he can
Weirdo
do a funny voice, then
indie
it's
movies.
fine. Yeah.
Yeah. Make him put on a really specific regional British accent. Like, make him a Geordie or something. Like, if you're gonna have...
It's time for the
Great.
West Country Bond. It's time for the Bristolian Bond. We need the...
yeah, I mean, yeah,
we need a
you
thick
guys have
Somerset Bond.
had it rough for too long.
Cornish Bond. We need that.
We need Max
Max
Bond,
Bond,
yeah.
yeah.
I mean, he's unfortunately the Doctor already, but Nkuti Gatwa would also be fun, because I want to see his the importance of being earnest run, which is in National Theatre right now. Like, that man looks exceptionally great in a suit. So yeah,
there's a little bit more to it than that, but yeah, I guess that kind of covers it. That was a good little snapshot into Bond. We didn't dive into every era. Like, I left more pretty much untouched, and we didn't dive too deeply into Connery or like Dalton or whatever. But
we can do a redux when I get through all of them in like 5 years.
Yeah, in 5 years.
Yes.
And or like, hopefully, if we all get together at some point, we can all sit down and watch one together. Watch a sillier one or something. Yeah.
It's like live commentary for people to follow along.
Well, I've been getting more and more friends to watch them. Like, I watched a couple of them with Carl, and Carl messaged me actually like just today to say that he watched Skyfall and he thought it fucked. So, you know, it's my propaganda is still spreading.
Nice. Okay, great. So I think that concludes our Bondcast, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think that's it all done. I hope we get to see everyone back again for a Bondcast at some time soon, or anything else. We may find yet more beautiful things to talk about. Maybe Ali will put me in a headlock and make me watch all the Hellraiser films.
Hell yeah.
I mean, Boris has already done that as well, so if we get one more person who's done it, we can probably do that.
We gotta extend the Clive Barker sphere of influence.
Look, there's only so
Clive
many of these
Barker
Hellraiser
cinematic
fan
universe.
movies I can watch by myself, so...
All right. Well, to everyone listening, have a good day /evening /morning /night, and we hope to see you guys again soon.
Yay.
All right.
Bye.
See ya.
Bye.
Bye-bye.